season 6, episode 3. April, so my son is wonderful. He's fantastic. He comes home yesterday and he has bruises and scrapes all over his knees, his elbow. His elbow, he has like, it's like this giant goose egg that's like started to swell with a big old like scrape. I think he fell on concrete or something like that. And and also that's on top of like a bunch of bruises like on his knees and legs and stuff, specifically on his legs. And it reminds me of when I was a kid. I was the same way. I had a ton of bruises and like just scrapes and bangs, and he's not skipping a beat. Like he's not out of the game. He's still playing the game and stuff. And like that's so awesome. And then Charlotte, my second to youngest, she's similar. She's got like she's very active and doesn't really think about everything before she jumps, which is an attribute that maybe you would love. Um, but anyway, so yeah, like they have super active childhoods, and that reminds me of mine. Like I was super active, like I had a very big imagination. Playing bad guys and saving the world and all this stuff. I was always outside fighting trees, and that's where all the bruises came from. What was your upbringing like? What was something that you liked to do? Were you a big outside person? Were you in the books, music? I don't know. What was your big deal?
I would say my two biggest things were riding my bike. So I grew up in the city. We lived kind of in townhouses where it was like a whole neighborhood of townhouses. And so we used to drive up and down like the side, lots of sidewalks without throughout the neighborhood. So we would just ride our bikes up and down all the streets. And my mom was like, "You can be out as long as you're home when the street lights come on," right? And so I had that kind of upbringing. And then also, Mitchell, you may be surprised, I was double Dutch queen. Um, Growing up, I did a lot of jumping ropes, and I'm telling you, I can still double dutch with the best of them to this day.
Today
Today,
you can.
today, you get some ropes out, get your little rhythm going. I'm in there, so
That's awesome.
I feel very
Yeah,
confident in that. So,
yeah. And also, you're like a fantastic bowler too, right? Not
I
right?
was,
Like, aren't you like
I mean, compared to my family, I'm like on the low end. Like a normal person would think I'm pretty decent. But my family, like we have
right?
people that have gone to college with bowling scholarships in my family.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Pretty, yeah, like it's like serious.
Yeah.
It's like serious. I was in a
Yeah.
bowl. Side note, I was in a bowl. I don't want to say forced because I didn't feel forced, but basically as a kid, I grew up in a bowling league. Like I would like go to like the league to learn different competitions, but I've never loved it enough to like pursue it for a collegiate career.
Sure.
So I'm just
Yeah. I mean, you're what?
I'm just average.
Oh no, no, you're definitely not. Yeah, you mentioned like growing up in the city. I grew up in the woods, like in the deep, deep woods. And yeah, bikes was a big deal. We didn't have a four-wheeler, but my cousin did, so he would come down and we would like get on their four-wheeler and stuff. My neighbor ended up moving in and he had a four-wheeler, but yeah, bike was a big deal. Um, like exploring the woods was a big deal. Like that was a lot of fun. Hot days, you would go to the like the water that's crossing the road. We called it the branch because it branched off the spring. We're throwing rocks to get like cool. Like a lot of good memories. Yeah, but definitely different sides of the spectrum there as far as upbringing for sure. No doubt.
Definitely. But here we are, right? Came
Here we
together to
are.
see the people. I'm excited about this conversation today because we talked about our childhood and growing up. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, there's different like stages, like you grow up, so to speak, as a content creator. And I think just in previous episodes recently, we've talked about kind of growing into being a content creator. Like you start your business off and you're just trying to do the things. You're just trying to have the systems. You're just trying to make it and survive. But then in that, you recognize there's some other things I have to grow in for my business to actually grow. And shifting, making that shift to being a storyteller, to being a content creator is definitely something that's going to help you grow as an entrepreneur, but also help your business grow. And today I want to talk about growing up in the sense of you used to focus on selling with your content, but now you recognize that the best way is just to serve. And I think that's a mindset shift that we have to really dial in on today, because when you have that always selling mindset, your content can start to sound robotic or sometimes even forced. But we want you to create with this passion, right? We don't want you to feel pressured to create content. As we're making this shift, it's not like, oh man, I got to create this content. I got to sell. No, it's I'm passionate about my vision. I'm passionate about what we offer. I'm passionate about our story. And so I'm just going to serve you and ultimately connect with you. And by me connecting with you, then naturally you are promoting your business, not from being pushy, but actually connecting. So I don't know your thoughts, Mitchell, but I'd love to hear, what's that mindset like, going from feeling like, man, I have to sell, 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 to just serve, 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 serve. Do you feel like that's a scary jump, or do you feel like it just happens naturally the more that you like lean into it?
I think it definitely is based on the person you're talking about. So, in a previous life, I was in corporate America, customer service, sales, and I've had extensive training and been through a ton of training classes, training people, managing people with all these different worlds of customer service and sales. And they're very similar, to be honest with you. But with me, I had to, and I've talked about this in a previous episode. We have talked about it in links. I've mentioned it before. I have to own what I'm talking about. I have to, if I'm training someone, if I'm talking to someone, if I'm trying to learn something new or whatever, I'm going to punch holes in it to where that if I can personally own it. And in the world of sales, I can spot someone not doing that. I can. It's clear as day, and I think a lot of people have this radar, but to me, it's clear as day when someone's not being authentic and they are trying to always be selling. And I've definitely heard that phrase before. I think we all have. And but you know that's a good contrast between selling and serving. And if you're looking for salute, well, if your client's coming up with problems, you need to serve and find a solution that fix their problems. So really you're serving solutions versus always be selling. And I think that's a great concept to wrap your head around. You can you can you can achieve selling by serving someone with a solution that's going to solve their problem. So, and as far as is it hard, is it easy? I think it totally depends on who you are. If you're very driven, if you're very competitive, if you love scoreboards, if you love data to know where you fall and you want to be on the top end, if not the first place, then maybe always be selling is easy for you because it gets you the outcome that you want. And I've seen people go off the deep end completely in that ditch to where that all they care about is what their numbers are, or, you know, where are they at versus actually serving the customer. And then you can go off in the other ditch. You could be so mindful of not offending or whatever and be timid to where that you're not even really serving the customer well because you're so afraid that you might step on toes or you might whatever, you know. So there's two ditches on that for sure, just like many things. But yeah, I think there's a middle road there that you would pull from part, you know, both sides of that to where that you're finding something that really serves your client.
No, I think that's so good. The middle of the road is definitely the goal. And I know for me personally, it took a few years to find the middle of the road, because I would say first in entrepreneurship, I leaned on the serving side so much so that I wouldn't want to sell. And then I realized if people don't know what I have to offer, then how is it helping them? Right? If I have a solution to someone's problem and I'm not giving them the solution, that really isn't serving them. And so I want to serve because I realize serving is selling, so to kind of, right? So instead of saying, "Hey, just buy my product," I'm saying, "This is what I created and this is how it can help you." And I am serving you by saying that, right? By sharing tips, giving insights and stories, right? I'm leading people to the thing I'm offering, not necessarily just starting with it like, hey, this is what I offer, or hey, these are some tips, but then I never lead them to how they can take advantage of the solution. It's like if you go to the doctor, like you're sick, you go to the doctor, and the doctor knows there's this medicine that's going to help you. And the doctor's talking to you, he's serving you, he's caring for you, he's telling you, these are some, these are some medicines that, could potentially help you. But if he never writes the prescription for you, is he actually serving you? So it's kind of that same thing. We have this solution. We want to offer it to people so that they can be served. And that's when the content becomes relational, not necessarily just transactional. So we want to shift to having a conversation with people, right? I want to help you. What are you struggling with? What's a way that we can show up for them without really asking or expecting anything in return, right? It's like I'm sharing this information with you, not because I'm expecting something in return. I'm sharing it because I want you to be the best that you can be. And I want you to get the solution to your problem. And so I'm just letting you know, hey, this is what I have to offer. And then it's up to the person to take that offer and then they're served. So it's very relational, right? So we start with serving and then the sales are going to follow naturally. So I know Mitchell, you talked about being in sales many, years ago. In your history, would you agree that when you focus like just on meeting the people where they are and then making that offer by serving, your results, I would imagine, are a lot more effective than just like, hey, I have this, buy this.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. In most of my sales experience and customer service experience, it was very touch and go. So it was very like they come in for this, you give it to them, and they walk out. And very, very, it could be very transactional. And what, with different trainings and different things, you start to realize that at least for a relational person who loves to connect to people, what I had to do was connect to people on a through a relationship. And it's there's an exchange when it comes to relationship, and I'm going to offer you something, and there's something you're going to give me in return. And it's hard to do that in some situations you find yourself in. Depending on the market and industry that you're in, it could be that. It could be, I'm going to build a relationship with the client, and that's going to take time and so on, or it's going to be more of a very quick interaction. They're going to be in and out or whatever. And again, I agree that building a relationship with your clients and those, whether it's a quick interaction or it's a long term relationship, the more that you can build that relationship, the better, because you're going to build trust, you're going to build relatability. That's a word, and so, because that's how people are going to be offering to work with you, or at least be more willing to work with you. Now, you could be in an industry where they have to have what you offer, and boy, isn't that like super easy? Like in the sales world, we would call that clerking. Like, I'm not having to sell anything. You just need what I have, and I'm just going to clerk and push the button and send you on your way. Um, and that's cool, man. That makes it, you feel good going to lunch, or you feel good about, before you go to bed or something like that. But not all the sales end up that way. So if you can find a way to relate, build a relationship with your client, with your customer, it's going to make things a lot easier.
Yeah, I love it. And in your example, you talked about, hey, I'm just going to sell it to them and I'm going to go enjoy a nice lunch. I think the difference in people in those industries is the ones that take the time to make the relationship. I bet you they have more referrals because you're going to walk away with a good feeling, then you want to share that with someone else. Even if you have to buy it, but you walk away feeling like, it was more transactional. I think it's more memorable when you can make that connection with the person that you purchased something from. And so you might be listening to this and you're like, okay, how do I make sure that I'm serving and not selling? We want to challenge you. Go to like your last 10 social media posts and just do an audit. and just calculate or do some tally marks. How many are serving focused and how many are selling focused? And just make sure you're focusing on serving. Another thing you might want to do is just pick one question that your audience always asks you or your customers always come in your store with and create a piece of content to answer that question. That's a great way to focus on serving. And maybe you just want to create a value piece of content this week and just have people say, hey, if that resonates with you, send me a DM or comment if that resonates with you. And you're just wanting to hear like the heart of your people, what they're struggling with, how you're helping them, and just start to build that relationship. So Mitchell, any final thoughts around content, serving versus selling? And I'll say this for my final thoughts and I'll give it to you. I think one thing we have to recognize is that the best content, the goal is never to convince anyone to do anything, but the best content is always to how can I connect? Because when you try to connect instead of convince, then people are always going to feel that authentic connection, relationship, and you're going to make more of an impact. You're going to get more sales. So that's what I'll say. But what are your final thoughts around this?
I love the connecting aspect. I think that's huge. Finding ways to connect, answering most frequent asked questions, and making content around that is beautiful. You're making my gears turn in my head on what I could do. Um, Going back to the being authentic in your sales. And I don't think we projected this at all, but just to reiterate, we're not saying that to be a good salesperson you have to be icky, you have to be gross, you have to be Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Like, no, that's exactly what we're saying. You don't have to be that way. What and also at the same time, you don't have to be so adamant to not be pushy and so on. It's finding that middle road. I just want to reiterate that. I think that's hugely, hugely important. Um, and there's definitely more ways you could look at that because that's kind of talking about two different personalities when there's multiple, there's multiple ones out there. But in short, I think that puts a good illustration on it. And then again, on the content side, like being authentic, finding ways to put things out there that help explain your story and explain your heart behind what you're doing. All that ties into this. And it's just a great way to get people that's out there to get to know you, the service that you provide. Um, so all of it's great. Yeah, don't be an icky salesman. No one likes those people.
Yeah. Hashtag no one likes it. I love it. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I need help. I feel like I'm selling all the time. How do I be relational in the content that I create? We're here to help you. Send us a DM on Instagram. We'd love to connect with you, get a consulting call on the calendar because we want to see your business grow. We want to see you develop those connections, develop those relationships so you can serve your people, be authentic, make an impact, and ultimately your people are being served. That is the goal, that they're getting the solution to their problem. So thanks for hanging out with us today. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe today. And also, you know what? Leave us a review. Wherever you're listening to this on, whatever platform, leave us a review. It helps us to get our message out there further and faster. We appreciate that. And we're looking forward to the next episode. So stay connected because together we
We
dream
dream
media.
media.